My name is Jamie Todd. I'm the designer for Stunted Trees and Broken Bridges. That means the set and the costume. And this is the set. I started by reading the script, getting a bit of an idea of what sort of scenes were needed. And there are two main areas in the show. There's one main area at the beginning of the show about being on the ledges on the top of buildings, jumping between different parapets. So that was one thing that stuck in my head. The other thing is it's all about brain scanning. So I wanted to try and get a bit of a feeling of brain scanners. So I've used the greys and the blues that hopefully feel a little bit medical, but also the shape allows the actors to run around the different areas and jump between different areas in order to get that feeling of height and a little bit of danger as well. So they've got some steps up here, and then they can jump across here if they want to, and walk around. This screen is where we project a lot of information that people ask about during the show, and it talks about the brain, and some scenes are projected onto this. But also this piece here can move. So sometimes it can be down here if you want it to be for a scene in a restaurant perhaps when people are sitting down and chatting. But it can move back and it turns into the brain scanner. This bit here lifts up and then we slide the character into there for the brain scanning scene. It's always a bit tricky to design for a school's tour because everything has to get in and get out of a school very, very quickly. It also has to fit in a fairly small van, which we use for touring, and normally has to go up quite a few stairs and round corridors and things like that, so that's quite complicated. Also, you don't have any control of the space. It's not like a theatre where they always have lights and you have someone in who's looking after you. You just normally left in a school hall and you just have to make sure you can control as much as possible. So we don't do anything to do with lighting because it's impossible. Sometimes it's sunny outside and you can't do anything. So we stick to the set and we try and get as much of the set to be the world of the characters. This staging is a traverse staging, so the audience will be along here and then along here. This is kind of challenging because one lot of the audience are looking at the other lot. It's a bit like a tennis match. But I think it's pretty good because it's a bit like film. Whenever you're watching a film, you're watching one person talking or you're seeing the reaction of another person. And it's a bit like that with traverse because sometimes you'll get the reaction of one person because you can't see the other person talking. So you get a different sort of performance depending on what side you sit. So I think it's a pretty good way of doing it. The set was built by a specialist scenery builders, and I gave them this. This is what all designers build first. It's a 1:25 scale model, and it's exactly 25 times smaller than the real one. So I give the scenery builders this. They asked me a few questions about how it needed to join together, what this needed to be made of, how big the van was for all the bits to come apart, and then they produce the big one. And the cast will be moving all of these themselves. They are quite heavy, some of these boxes. Most of them are 1 metre by half a metre by half a metre. They're about 15 kilos. Some of them are a bit longer, there's some 1.5 metre ones, and this one here is 2 metres long, but that's one big piece, but that's a certain length because the screen that's stuck on with Velcro, that comes off and is rolled up and sits in this box here, so that's why that's that long. But it takes 2 of them to lift each box, and then these ones are just a square frame and then we put the lid on top. But all the others are solid boxes and they can put all their bits and pieces in there. The actors also have to look after all their own costumes. We have 2 of all the costumes, just so we can wash things whilst we're on tour, because they don't have any time in the schools to wash things. So one lot of things has to be washed when they get back to their hotels and things like that. But they have to look after all their costumes and sew anything that goes wrong whilst they're on tour as well. So there's a lot for them to do. Designing the costumes is a bit of a collaboration, really. I read the script, I have a rough idea from what the set looks like as to what I want the actors to wear. But what I do is I actually, in the middle of rehearsals, I take the actors out one by one and talk them through, ask them what how their character's developing and what they feel that their character may be wearing. But I also have input, because I've got to think about all the other actors and how they all work together and what colours that are on stage at the same time. So it's a collaboration. I take them out, we try things on. If we like something or suddenly see something that really works, we'll buy that and then work with the rest of the costume around things. But they do still have to be practical. There's quite a lot of quick changes in this, and quite a lot of actors doubling up, playing different smaller characters. So there's a lot of taking on and off the costumes backstage, ready, in time for the next scene.